I'm Connirae Andreas, and in this video, I'm going to share with you a significant new development, both in personal transformation and in awakening or spiritual development. It's called the Wholeness Work. The Wholeness Work has made a huge difference in my own life, in all aspects of it, really. So I'm so happy to be sharing it with you today. In this talk, you'll learn about what Wholeness Work is. You'll learn the practical benefits. I'll share with you how it came about. Plus, perhaps the most important part, I'll guide you in an exploration. You can do the first Wholeness Work exercise along with me and experience it yourself today. We'll also talk about why it works, the principles, and how you can use it in your life. We'll speak at the very end. We'll talk about the full transformation journey and what that means beyond today's exercise. So first, what is Wholeness Work? Wholeness Work is a new approach to transformation that brings about a very deep level of emotional healing, a letting go of stress, a resetting of the nervous system. It feels wonderful. The more you do it, the better it feels. Sometimes at the beginning, it's a little subtle, but the more you do it, the more you really experience this full reset of the nervous system. And even we begin experiencing what you could call awakening. In almost every Wholeness Work training I do, someone comes up to me and says, "Do you realize what this is? You found a way to actually do what the spiritual teachers talk about." And yes, this method does provide a way to experience what spiritual teachers describe that can work for anyone. And that's the key. It's a very specific step-by-step method that makes it reachable, that makes it doable for anyone. And you'll get a glimpse of this when we do the exercise a little bit later in this session. In my last training, a participant shared that after the first practice, she already experienced something quite profound, something beyond what she'd experienced in 14 years of meditating. And others have described how meditation has worked well for them, but with Wholeness Work, they find that the shift in consciousness, it's faster, it's easier, it's more direct. And while it's not really about speed, these things are what makes it accessible to anyone at any time. You don't have to wait for things to click. The Wholeness Work can meet you exactly where you are and use that as an opening for deep transformation. So I want to be clear from the beginning, though, this work isn't just about profound states. It's not just, sometimes people think of awakening as just this profound state. And it is. It's both ordinary and profound at the same time is the way I think about it. I like the Zen teachings in that along those lines. But it's not just about that. It also results in a deeper emotional healing. And it is so touching to hear from people who finally share how they are free of lifelong emotional issues. Their emotional hot buttons are transformed, and other challenging life issues often change with this method. So I'd like to describe for you the benefits. And there's a long list of benefits from using Wholeness Work that are very reliable. Most people experience them. It's not just one or two or the few, it's most people. It's a very reliable transformation method, and that's because of its precision, as you'll come to understand a little bit later. Even people who've tried many other approaches before often say that they're getting a new level of benefits. So here's a short list of what these benefits are. It's very reliable that stress starts melting away. This method is an easy way to relax and de-stress on a daily basis if you want to. Also, relationships. Relationships are important to all of us, perhaps, and our relationships get better. And this is because our hot buttons, we have a way to transform and heal those. It's not about covering them over. It's about using our emotional reactivity as an access to something within that really needs healing, but it's in such a simple way. And with this kind of alchemy, there's an easy, gentle, kind transformation of our emotional hot buttons. The result is our relationships improve. It's easier to be present, more connected with other people in a true and authentic way. Also, deep emotional issues are healed and at a deep level. As I mentioned earlier, many times people who've tried other approaches and say, well, I got part ways with that, but it feels like there's some residual left. And so many people have shared that, wow, finally, the last bit, it feels like everything is healed now. It doesn't necessarily always happen all at once. It's a process over time, but it's very reliable, and and you can feel it happening. It's not like you need to wait a year to discover if there's any change. You start experiencing the benefits right away. Another benefit, better sleep. This is almost universal. Most people who use wholeness work discover they're sleeping better, and they have more energy too. Both happen. More creativity. People talk about how problems are like the solutions to problems just start showing up without a lot of effortful struggle to find solutions. And people even report benefits on the physical level. Many physical complaints start either improving or sometimes even clearing up. That it's still a good idea to see your doctor, of course, but this can really work in harmony. With wholeness work, I think we release the body, we enable the body to do its natural tendency, which is to heal itself. So it really supports any other kind of healing that you are doing. And most people describe moving through life with more ease as a result of this. I've had people tell me, I didn't realize the effort that I was putting in before, but now, in contrast, I feel this ease inside, and it's really nice. So, these are a lot of claims, I know, and actually, these days, there are many methods that make these kind of claims. However, I believe wholeness work is something unique, that it can help each of us to have more complete results, kinder results, easier results. And I'm going to explain why later in this talk. So next, I'd like to share with you my story of how I came to wholeness work, or maybe it's even more accurate to say how wholeness work came to me. And the method came to me. It wasn't some sweet thing. It came through a time of physical crisis, actually. I was desperate, and I think for me, that's what created the opening where I was really open to something new, something different, something deeper, something that went way beyond what I already knew. At the time, I was an NLP trainer. I had a successful career. Together with my husband, Steve Andreas, we had created and published the first popular NLP books, and people were traveling from around the world to study with us in the Colorado mountains. And during the late 1980s, I developed core transformation, which is a parts work method that often resulted in profound change. But then, in 1997, I experienced this physical breakdown. I really thought I was dying. I thought that was what was happening or would soon happen. The main symptom I was experiencing was this intense electricity, that it felt like there was electricity going up my central column, and it felt subjectively so intense that I thought my body couldn't withstand it. And it was so intense that I really couldn't do much of anything. I couldn't think, I couldn't sleep. So I was primarily staying in a quiet, dark room most of the time. The doctors didn't know what was wrong. Nobody had anything that could really help with this. And so I was again, desperate. The intensity of this current seemed like at a physical level, it was likely to destroy me later, if not sooner, but I thought probably sooner. But I didn't want to die. I was really hoping for some kind of a miracle where I could survive. So I started exploring. I turned over every rock, every stone to try to find some kind of answer. And I began exploring in the area of spirituality. My background in clinical psychology and in NLP didn't seem to have the answers that I needed, so I really hoped that I might find something in spiritual teachings that could help. I began reading every account of personal awakening that I could get my hands on. I sat in satsang circles with non-dual teachers, with Advaita teachers. I went to silent meditation retreats. And the main teaching I encountered is that awakening happens through letting go of the ego. I'm sure this is familiar to most of you, maybe all of you. And at least some of the teachers said that when someone experiences a true awakening, then one's consciousness shifts in such a way that life's stresses and problems sort of melt away. So that sounded good to me. I definitely wanted that. But what seemed to be missing was a precise and a reliable way to do this. Sometimes the spiritual teachers I met with said that, well, it happens through grace, and it's not possible to have specific steps to get there. But I started wondering, is this just because nobody has discovered the steps? Is it really that it's not possible to have steps, or maybe it's just that no one knows what these steps are? Definitely it doesn't work to just sit around and think about these things conceptually, but what if there are real steps? The spiritual teachers that talked about this transformation, they expressed their own experience of transformation of consciousness, and my impression is they would do their best to describe what this awakened state was like. But it seemed as if they didn't really know how they got there themselves. They just got there. And then they could describe what it was like, but couldn't necessarily tell other people how to get there in a reliable way. Of course, we were instructed to meditate. We were sitting together in circles, but I was seeing how people were doing that, and the results were still, well, I was hoping for something more reliable, a little faster. So I began to wonder if it might be possible to find a pathway that would make this shift of consciousness possible for everyone and easier and more reliable. I thought maybe it's like with matches and fire. You know, long time ago, fire, of course, was a mystery. It was magic. And using a match to start a fire would seem like magic if one didn't know the chemistry behind it. But the reason we have matches is because at some point, someone discovered what made it possible to reliably start a fire. And now anyone can do it quite easily. So I started exploring things within myself to find out, can I find a precise and reliable way to experience what's called awakening? And I believe that's what wholeness work is. As I approached this, I thought, okay, if we want to be able to dissolve the ego, awakening is described as dissolving the ego, but what does that mean? If we want to be able to dissolve the ego, we need to first know what is the ego. And I'd been parts of groups where people got into long discussions about this conceptually, but what is the ego in experience? If we want to change something, we need to find it in experience. So if you want to, for example, fix a car engine, you need to know where that engine is located. You need to know what it is and how it functions. Then you can maybe fix it. If you want to be able to cook a meal for someone, well, you need to know, not just conceptually understand cooking, but you need to know where all of these ingredients are. You need to be able to locate them and how to combine them. So back to the ego, and I was asking myself, well, what is the ego in experience? And I thought the simplest answer is that the ego is the I. We use this word all the time. I'm going to plan a party. I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to talk to my partner, or I'm going to talk to my child or a friend. Even I'm going to have fun. So we're constantly using this word I. And the word I is our experience of self. But what is the I in experience? Just knowing the ego is the I doesn't really get us much closer. If we want to be able to change it, we need to be able to find it in experience. And that's what the first wholeness work exploration is all about, how to find the ego in experience. And when we have done that, then we can go the next step, which is to invite a transformation. For me personally, the first time I tried this exercise I'm going to guide you in, the results were subtle. They were immediate though. I could sense a slight shift immediately. And as my own eye released, I felt a welcome kind of relaxation, this subtle release of stress and tension. And as I continued using the method, the results gradually amplified. They seemed to build on what had started as a subtle thing. It gradually, the results accumulated. So finally I had something that could help me with sleep and could even transform and heal day-to-day hurts and the underlying emotions. I could feel that this was working at a deeper level than anything I'd experienced before. The healing and release was somehow more complete. And clients that I tried this out with reported the same thing. So, working in myself as well as with others, I found that this method is actually extremely potent when it comes to addressing real-life issues. Next, I'd like to guide you in a simple exploration so that you can begin to experience what I'm talking about. And each step is intended to be very simple, very easy. So I encourage you to kind of let go of any background assumptions or ideas you might have about meditating, about awakening, and just come to this freshly and notice what happens for you when you go through this very simple guiding. So first thing, and I'm going to do this along with you, the first thing is to just get into a comfortable position, wherever you are, in a chair, lying down, whatever your position. And of course, please do this when you are in a place where you're not driving a car or something like this. This exploration is something to do inside when you're in a comfortable and safe place. So in a chair, lying down, wherever you are, just let yourself find a comfortable position. And then either with eyes open or eyes closed, you can just check in your body and notice any body sensation. And you can notice any sensation at all. It doesn't have to be something positive. It doesn't have to be negative. It might be positive, negative. It might be neutral. So I'm going to do this with you. And if I check inside, okay, the sensation I'm noticing right now is a little bit of pressure where my ribs contact the back of my chair. Little feeling of pressure there in my mid-back section. And if I can also notice, there's this feeling of inside my lower abdomen, it's of a bit of warmth. And I can also notice inside my head, behind my eyebrows, there's this a little bit of pressure, a feeling of a bit of squeezing, or a little bit of contraction there. So you can notice whatever you notice. And if you notice more than one thing, like I just did, just pick one of them, any one of them for the exploration. So I'm going to pick this feeling in my, I'm going to pick this sensation in my head, behind my eyebrows of just a slight pulling. I'm going to start with that. And so when you pick your sensation, just notice where is it located in your body. It might be in your torso somewhere, in your neck or head. It could be in your legs. But notice how much space it takes up. So for me, this sensation, it takes up a fairly small space. It's sort of like an oblong, lying on its side. And then whenever you've noticed the location, now sensing in through the space and notice the sensation itself. So for me, there's this slight feeling of pulling. And actually there's also a slight fizziness almost, a slight fizziness in the area. So you can notice what you notice. There might be a warmth, there could be a coolness, there could be a vibratiness, a fizziness. Sometimes it could feel raw, it could feel smooth. There could be a feeling of swirling or stillness. It really could be anything. So just notice what's the sensation like for you? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. Whatever your experience is, that's the right answer. That's always the right answer. There's also no better or worse answer. It's the best thing is to meet our experience however it is right now in this moment. And if I do that honestly, then then some magic can happen a little bit later on. So okay, so I'm finding this sensation here in my forehead. It's a little bit of sort of fizzy quality and a slight pulling sensation. Whatever you notice, you could think the thought or say to yourself, and it would be true, I am aware of this sensation, right? That's a true thought. I am aware of this sensation, wherever it is. So now we get to an interesting question. When you think this thought, I am aware of this sensation, where is the I located? And this will be probably easier to notice if your eyes are closed. So you can just let your eyes closed. Notice the sensation in the body. Think the thought, I am aware of this sensation. And then where is the I located? Woo. And then just notice whatever emerges in your awareness. Okay, for me, I'm getting now, oh, it's kind of interesting. A little different than usual. I'm getting this sort of almost a sense of a bubble shape, mostly outside and in front of my head, but a little bit overlapping with my forehead. And you can notice whatever you notice. Sometimes people know the eye is inside the head somewhere. Sometimes it's inside the body, the torso somewhere. It could be in the chest. It could be in the abdomen. It really could be anywhere. One of the most unusual ones was when somebody said, well, it's in my big toe. That's not very typical. But again, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. There's just whatever you notice. So sometimes it's within the body, and sometimes it's outside the body that it shows up. So it could be in front of, mine was in front of my head. It could be above the head, behind the head, to one side or another. It could be in front or behind the body or to one side or another. Again, it really could be anywhere. And it could be close to the body. It could be far away. Once I had somebody tell me it's as so far away, it was as if it's in another galaxy. And usually it's closer, but again, there's no right or wrong. There's no better or worse. The important thing is to just let the location come into your awareness so that you can recognize it and go, for me it's here, in this moment it's here. I want to say one more thing about it. This is can help you. Some of you probably notice the location right away. For others of you, you might still be going, well, I'm not really sure I found anything. And sometimes people are unsure because they're expecting it to look like something substantial, like an apple or an orange or a coffee cup or something. But sometimes the answer just comes as a location in space, and it's almost just a location in space. It could be a sense of emptiness even in that location. So it's okay, however it shows up. It might be just a location with nothing substantial. Sometimes it is substantial, but often not. It might be a little bit like a cloud or a fog. It really could show up as anything. So I'd like to give you the freedom to just guess too. If you're not sure, it's totally fine to just guess and or even pretend you know the answer and just go with that. All totally fine. Okay, so now that we have a location, most of us anyway, have a location, and if you aren't sure yet, just guess. If you go back to the I am aware of this sensation, and where is the I, then just guess whatever location pops into awareness. And now notice the shape and size of this I. Whatever the I, so mine showed up in front of my face, in front of my head, and it's as if it was sort of a bubble shape, almost actually as if it was several overlapping bubbles, almost completely overlapping, but not quite. That's how mine emerged. Yours could be like a cloud. It could be like a rectangle. It could be like a square. It could look like something or look like nothing, and any shape. And You might not even be quite aware of the shape, but there's likely a sense of size. If there's a size, you might have a sense of, well, it's really big, or it's really tiny, or it's kind of medium size. So just notice how the sense of size and shape of this eye that has emerged for you. And then the next step is to sense in and through the space of this and notice what I call sensation quality. And by sensation quality, I mean, is there a fuzziness? Is there an emptiness? Is it vibratiness or a fizziness? There could even be a sense of dampness, a smoothness, roughness, heaviness, denseness. I think I said that one already. Airiness. It really could be any sensation at all. So when if you allow there to be a sensing in and through, what's the sensation quality in the space of your eye, where you found the eye located? Now I'm going to do this for myself. If I check inwardly, the sensation quality, there's a quality of light, actually, the quality of light, a slight quality, as if there's an invisible light, and there's a quality of color here, but almost invisible color. Sometimes the impression is something difficult to put into words, and that's fine. I'm having a hard time putting this into words for you, but I'm doing my best. So sort of invisible light, invisible color hues, mostly just clear space. And the space it's not completely clear. It's as if maybe there's some subtle energy within it, something subtle within it. And that's as best I can do. So you notice what's the sensation quality for the eye for you, and and if you can't put it into words, it's fine. Now let's go to the next step in the exploration. We're going to set aside the I for the moment, and we're going to go back to that sentence, I am aware of this sensation. Remember that sentence. So we've already explored the sensation. We know where it is in the body. We know the sensation quality. We've already explored the I in experience. We know where it's located, its size and shape, its sensation quality. So now we're going to explore that middle word, awareness. What is awareness? Now, when I started guiding other people through this process, I noticed that even people who were very experienced meditators, if you're a meditator, you've probably heard of this word awareness before. It's probably very familiar. But I began to notice that even experienced meditators had very different experiences of what awareness is. It was quite different, one person to another. And there's a certain way to experience awareness that works for this exercise. So I'm going to guide you in a simple experience of that. So we can check right in this moment, we can check that awareness is already present through our physical body. We know this because a moment ago we were able to find a body sensation, right? And if awareness wasn't already present, we wouldn't be able to find this body sensation inside. So we know awareness is already present through the body, through the whole body. And if something were to tap us on the knee or tap us on the shoulder, because awareness is already there, there's an automatic noticing of this, an automatic registering of the tap. It's not that we have to send our awareness there. It's not that we go, oh, maybe somebody's tapping me on the shoulder. I better send my awareness there so I can notice it. The awareness is already present. It's this capacity to experience that's already present through the body. And the same thing is true of the space all around in every direction. And we can check that out too. If someone were to call your name from the left, there would be an automatic receiving of the sound, right? And if somebody were to call your name from the right, there would just be an automatic receiving of the sound. You wouldn't have to send your awareness out there to go get the sound. Go, oh, maybe somebody's calling me. I better send my awareness out to get the sound. You don't have to do that. I don't have to do that because awareness is already present through the space all around. So if there's a sound from the left, if someone calls my name from the right, from the front, from the back, above, below, in any direction, there's just this automatic, easy receiving of the sound because awareness is already present through the space all around in every direction. And in our subjective experience, there's not really an edge or a border to this awareness. No edge or border. It's not like we can find a line where we could say, okay, if somebody called my name from this side of the line, then I wouldn't hear it. Whereas if they called on this side, then I'd hear it. So we can't find an edge or border like that. Now, mentally, we might know that if someone calls my name from the other side of the world or even 500 miles away, I'm not going to hear it most likely, right? And yet, in subjective experience, we can't find any edge or border, any boundary where we know, okay, here on this side I'll hear it, on that side I won't. And that's important, just to register that there's, in subjective experience, there's no edge or border. There's just this experience of space through the body in every direction all around that has no edge or border. And we can just pause to experience this right now. And it can be nice to experience this experience of awareness through the body, the space in the body, the space all around in every direction. Just experience this for a moment right now. And then let's come back. Let's return to that I that we found a moment ago. So for me, it was this sort of bubble in front of my head. For you, it's whatever it is. If you go back to the one that you found, to the location that you found, and then sensing it in through, notice the sensation of the I, again, right now in this moment, So just the intention is to register the sensation quality in and through the area of where the I is located. And now I'm going to offer an invitation, and that is, notice what happens when the sensation of the I is invited to open and relax in and as the full space, the full field of awareness that's all around and throughout. And then, without trying to figure anything out, without making anything happen, just allow whatever happens to happen. And I'll repeat that invitation again. If you haven't yet started, you can go back to going back to the I, starting with the I, or if nothing has happened yet, starting with the sensation of the I. Notice what happens when the sensation of the I is invited to open and relax, dissolve, melt in and as the full field of awareness that is all around and throughout. And then just let go to the happening of this. Allow whatever happens to happen, however it happens. Yeah. And you can stay with that as long as something is happening. And whenever things settle, then you can return to this room with me. And we'll talk about that a little bit. If things are still happening for you, you can just stay with it or push pause and then let things happen until they settle. And then click and come back to me here in this session. So, what did happen for you? For some people, nothing happens. For some people, there's a big shift, even occasionally a dramatic shift. Sometimes a very subtle shift, like happened for me the first time I tried this. What I want you to know is that whatever happened for you, it's the right thing. It's in some way perfect for you, even if nothing happened at all. with wholeness work, when whatever happens, it just lets us know what we need to do next. And in the trainings, we get into what is needed. When nothing happens, that indicates something specific is needed. And we provide that. We meet your experience exactly as you are. So with wholeness work, we never expect the person or try to get the person to change who they are or how they're experiencing something to match the method. The method always needs to adapt to fit the person so that it's an easy and a gentle and a kind process. But let's get back to what happened, the possibilities of what might have happened for you. For some people, if something happened, and for most people on the first exercise, something does happen, whether it's subtle or medium or bigger, the shift. And the most typical experience is some kind of relaxation. So for me, for example, when I invite this to dissolve and melt, the bubble that was here for me, when I invite that to dissolve, the sensation of this to dissolve and melt. It's interesting. It wants to take a little time, and then it has its unique way of processing, and there's this gradual flow as if the energy of this starts flowing somehow through my body, and it leads to this relaxation from the very core of my body. It's like this sort of flowed within my spinal column almost, and it began to release from there. This is a different one for me. I've never actually had one happen just this way before, but I'm just going with how it's happening for me right now. So I'll describe what several other people, every person's experience is unique. For some people, it's just, oh, there was this cloud of energy here, and when it dissolved and melted, it's sort of like it dispersed like sunlight on a cloud, and it dispersed through and into the space of everything. And then it's like I can see more clearly. Something relaxes a little bit and I can see more clearly. For another person, it might be, oh, there was this compressed place in my chest, and as it dissolved and melted into the whole, it was almost like a little explosion and warmth went through my body. For another person, it might be there was this place in the middle of my head. The eye was in the middle of my head, and the sensation of fizziness. And as it dissolves and melts, it's like rain flowing through the whole body. It can be like many different things, and sometimes it's something that happens outside our conscious awareness, and we're really not quite sure what happened. So sometimes it's like, whoa, something released. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what happened, but feel a little bit more relaxed now. That can often happen, something like that. Again, however it happened for you is perfect. It's always perfect. Just as it is. If nothing happens, it tells us what we need to do next. Tells us that there's something else we need to meet within first. So, but for those of you who, if you're already experiencing some shifting, let's talk about why it works. And I want you to know that it works as far as I know, this works for everyone when we take the time to meet the individual, who they are. So whether or not it has already worked for you, it can work if you are with someone who knows how to guide you. So let's talk about why it works, though. What are the principles behind this? Let's start with how we start. We all come into this life as a baby, right? And as a baby, we have what I call baby consciousness. And a baby has no sense of separate self. The baby does not have a formed ego or a formed I. And developmental psychologists will tell you this. I learned this in graduate school years ago in clinical psychology. And so the baby experiences this flow of sensation, color, light, sound. It's just experience happening. And for the baby, there's not a differentiation between, oh, that's my experience and or that's something outside me. The baby doesn't know the difference between themselves and the desk or the carpet or the tree outside. It's just a flow of color, light, sound, sensation. So there's no I. Now there's an upside to that, which is if we look into the eyes of a baby, and as long as the baby is warm, dry fed, you know, the baby's in a good mood then, we look into the eyes of the baby and we get this, there's this sense of wide open consciousness. And I think this is why people really love to look into the eyes of a baby, because we get this doorway into this wide open consciousness, this vastness of consciousness, that it mirrors something native within ourselves, that it's really nice, it's really relaxed, open. But if we look into the eyes of a baby and we go away, we lose that wide open feeling. And for the baby, there's that upside, but there's also the downside. The baby can't function on its own. And because to be able to function on our own in this world that we live in, we do need to have an understanding, an awareness of the separation of our body from the rest of the experiences on earth. So there's some value, at least, in understanding that I am not the same as the carpet, and I'm not the same as the sandwich sitting on the table. And this is important to know, because if I get hungry, I need to know that the hunger has to do with this body that I'm inhabiting, and the sandwich on the table is separate from me. So if I want to solve this problem of hunger, I need to pick up the sandwich, put it in this mouth over here, and start eating it. So that's how having a sense of separate self can help us function in the world. We need it to be able to navigate the world on our own without a caretaker just providing the food for us, or, you know, creating the warm, dry fed for us. So there's value to it, to forming a sense of separate self, a sense of an I. But the thing is, this I does not develop in the way we might think it would. It's smaller than the full space of awareness. For one thing, you know, it's these small places in space. So who are you really anyway? If we ask that question, we might come up with mental answers, but what if somebody at a party says, well, who are you really? And you say, well, I know, I watched this video and I found the I inside, and it's this, you know, it's this bubbly thing in front of my face, or it's this small place inside my chest. Whatever you found here, if you were to tell somebody that's who I am, they would look at you funny, right? They'd go, what? Are they on drugs or something? So it doesn't make logical sense that that's who we really are. And yet it's as if our unconscious has formulated who we are in that way. So this sense of self doesn't develop in a logical way. It develops, and I won't get into the whole thing about how and why it develops on this talk because we don't have time, but what we can notice right away is it's smaller than the full space of awareness. And who am I really? If we're going to ask, who am I really? Well, surely who I really am would not be any less than this full space of awareness that is easy for me to notice when I just pause and check. So now this gets really interesting, because if we think about how we move through life, if we say, I'm going to solve this problem, then who's the one solving it? It's generally one of these small places in space, like each of us just found, that is now trying to solve the problem. And is that really going to work very well? These eyes that we find inside, they are literally a contraction of consciousness. They are contraction of our consciousness. It's almost like a hand in a fist. A hand forming a fist is a contraction on the physical level. The I is a contraction of consciousness on the energetic level, in the unconscious. It's hard to know how to speak of this, but it's a contraction of our consciousness, which is a different level of experience than just our physical muscles, but it's very similar to the hand into the fist. And so when we invite the I to open and relax into the fullness of awareness, it's inviting this contraction of consciousness that we formed somehow at the unconscious level just to try to navigate life. It invites this to relax back into the whole of our being. back into who I actually am. So when we release these contractions of consciousness back into the whole of awareness, we relax, and we are now experiencing ourselves as something closer to the fullness of who we are. It's the fullness of who I am in this moment, rather than just this small place in space. Because if I try to solve a problem as a small place in space, I'm trying to solve it from not my complete consciousness, where if I let all of me, if I bring all of me to solve the problem, to talk to somebody important to me, to be creative, whatever, to have fun, if I'm there as my whole being rather than just a small place in space, life is easier. It's more rewarding. We can connect more easily. All those benefits I was talking about earlier start happening for us. So with this method, it gives a way to rediscover in experience our true nature, to rediscover the fullness of our being really directly. Now, there are a lot of meditations that invite us to just go straight to, let's experience awareness, let's experience bliss, let's experience something, our true nature. But if we try to go to there directly, we're bypassing something important. We're bypassing these contractions within that do exist, and they don't tend to disappear just because we're doing our best to access awareness. Now, when we find the eyes within and release them back into the whole of consciousness, something quite magical does happen, because we are experiencing now the awareness that we are in a way that it actually enriches the awareness, because each of these eyes that we have inside, and we have many of them, I'll just give you that tip right now too. It's not that each of us has only one. Each of us has many. And the more we practice this, the more we're finding them, we're releasing them back into the whole of who we are. And with each eye that relaxes back into the whole of who we are, the awareness itself that we experience it in a more full, more complete, a rich way. It literally enriches our experience of awareness when we find the eyes and invite them to relax into awareness. So I hope that makes some sense for you. If you'd like, you can go back to the beginning of this talk, try the exercise out again, and just find out if you get some additional benefit. One more point I'd like to make about these eyes that form on the inside. They are literally a contraction of consciousness, just like a hand and a fist. And similar to a hand on a fist, or fist on a physical level, if I contract my hand into a fist, and then I forget that I'm doing it, if the hand stays in a fist, guess what happens? This starts it uses up energy, it saps strength, it literally stresses me out, it uses up my energy. The same thing happens on the inner level, on the psychological level, we could say, or the energetic level, with the eyes that form. They are a contraction of consciousness. They take energy and they stress our system. So if we had a fist like this that was contracting, and we start to feel stressed out, and then whether we meditate, go to a healer, whatever we do to try to get help with this, if we don't find the fist and invite that to release, the stress on some level is going to remain. So we might get temporary relief from using lots of methods, but I think the way Wholeness Work offers something unique, offers a contribution, is it provides us a way to get to the source of the stress, to get to the source of the suffering. Because these eyes that we form inside, they literally take energy. When they're relaxed back into the whole, we don't need to use that energy that way anymore. So more energy is available just for living our life, for being present, for enjoying things. These eyes that form on the inside, they are also where limiting beliefs are held. So when we have a limiting belief about ourselves, limiting belief about other people or the world, those are contained within these eye structures. So when we find the eyes inside, we invite them to release. We're we're relaxing an unnecessary, at this point, expenditure of effort, but we're also releasing ourselves from limiting beliefs that we formed. Now, these I's were often formed during childhood, and as a child, we had a child's perspective on things, and so the kinds of limiting beliefs that we formed wouldn't necessarily fit with our adult understanding of things, but yet they exist at the unconscious level. So when we find them, we invite them to release. The wonderful thing is we don't even have to know what the limiting beliefs were for them to dissolve and melt, and for us to be free to be more present, more here, more now. I just received an email the other day from someone who'd read the book and started practicing the exercises based on that. And he was saying, I'm getting progress on issues that I wasn't able to overcome with years of work, that they were still present, and now they're just releasing within a few weeks of practice. It's all different. And the thing is that I don't even need to know the content. I love that I don't even need to know the content of these things. And it's just, the wholeness work is so direct. We just can start with any experience we're having in the moment, find the I, and then invite that to release into the whole, and it shifts things. Now, I also want to talk about how wholeness work is a journey, because wholeness work is much, much, much more than I have presented here today. This was the very first exercise in dissolving the ego. There are more exercises to make dissolving the ego part, to make that phase easier and more complete. So dissolving the ego is phase one of the wholeness work journey. And what you did today is the first step of that first phase. So there is more to learn about dissolving the ego, more tips that can make it easier to find, and what to do in case the first I you find doesn't want to relax and dissolve. These other dissolving the ego formats make all that really easy, because one important principle of wholeness work is that it's designed to be effortless. It's designed to be a releasing of effort, not putting in more effort. Because if I have a fist like this, or like this, if I go, okay, it should relax and open, and I try to pry it open, that just creates more tension, more stress. So with wholeness work, we never need to do that. It's never about effort. It's always about finding the place that is ready to open and relax without effort. Because if you have a fist like this and you've forgotten about it, but if awareness comes back in, generally the fist starts just opening and relaxing on its own from the inside. And that's what happens with wholeness work when we find the right place of entry. And in the wholeness work journey, we learn how to easily find that place of entry, the place our system is yearning to be noticed and recognized. So wholeness work is a journey. And I mentioned that dissolving the ego is phase one. In this journey, what we're doing is we systematically find the structures of the unconscious that hold problems or suffering in place. Now, that's a big sentence, and it becomes really easy when you do the exercises. The I, or the limited self structure, that's the first unconscious structure that holds problems in place. We began exploring that today, but there are more structures of the unconscious. So wholeness work has it mapped out what are the universal structures of the unconscious that hold problems in place, and shows you how to easily find and release each one. So I could give you a quick glimpse of the next structures involve authority. The second structure involves authority, but the way to find it and the way to release it is different than one might think. And then the third structure, it has to do with, I call it the emptiness nurturing structures. And these have to do with when we really know how to find and meet these. It's just as easy as finding the I, but there are different questions. And this helps us resolve and heal places inside that perhaps based on lacks of nurturing from childhood. So all of this adds up to something that can be quite enjoyable, and it feels kind to go on this journey. And if we think about the end results of using this method, not that there is ever an ending, but this method gives us a way to have peace within. Number one, it's a way to have peace within even when there isn't peace without. So we begin to experience this deeper level of reality where everything is actually fine. And this can be remarkably helpful in the world we live in right now, where we're connected with global events that aren't always pleasant. And sometimes we have friends and relatives, or just we feel a compassion for people who are going through that. But we can feel peace within. And that enables us to more easily do whatever we're able to do, if anything. So in my last training, I had someone, there were several people actually who live close to war spots and have connections with people there. And one told me, I feel like God led me to you, because before, with the news every day, before I attended this class, I felt like my mental health was falling apart. And when I came to your class, even after the first exercise, I started feeling like I came to that peace within that you were talking about, and it really is wonderful. So we can do that. And sometimes the peace without is globally. Sometimes often it's just in the world around us, in our relationships. For me, this method made a huge difference with all my relationships, but I especially noticed it with my main partnership, my marriage. It made a huge difference there. The quirks, the things that irritated me about him, many of them, I realized, I viscerally, I felt, those don't matter. It was more funny rather than something that bugged me. And in the places where I really did want to speak my truth, set a limit or a boundary, or going, that's really not okay with me. It's really important to me to have a different way of relating with you on this. When it was important for me to set a boundary, it enabled me to do that without the emotional volatility, without the drama, because I could do it from a place of compassion and clarity. And that was new for me. Yet it was easy when I would do wholeness work with my emotional reactivity. So that gets us to the next thing, where this leads us. Wholeness work enhances our wisdom and our emotional intelligence, our humor. We problem solve more easily. We find solutions. And then the third main effect is that all of this makes it possible for us to contribute meaningfully to our friends, our family, our community, our world. So we start with within. We feel the benefits within, the rich benefits in our own life, but it also gives us this possibility to make a meaningful contribution, which to me is valuable too. And it's part of why my life calling is to share this with others, because I see that it can really make a difference globally, and first individually with us, our fight coming to peace within, then in our families, but then in our communities, and then reaching out also globally. It can make it easier for us to come together, to realize there's not really this difference between ourselves and others. This is an understanding that starts to feel quite visceral when we do the wholeness work. And, unconscious divisions that we found within ourselves, they dissolve, they melt away. And as that happens, we no longer feel a division on the outside either. And we feel in a visceral way this connection with everything and everyone. So that's what I'd like to leave you with, and invite you to explore with me more. If this resonates with you, I definitely invite you to explore more with me about the wholeness work and find out what happens for you.